non-native pilots and air traffic controllers. In this video, I'm going to break down from an English pronunciation perspective what happened between French air traffic control and Air Portugal Flight 484, where due to a miscommunication and a misunderstanding as a result of English pronunciation, French air traffic control were led to believe that there were pilots inoperative on the flight, when in reality the toilets were inoperative on the flight, and as a result they were requesting to land as soon as possible so that passengers could get off to relieve themselves. I'm going to start by playing you a bit of footage from the incident from air traffic control, which I got from the ATC audio YouTube channel here, and I'm going to link that video in the description below so you can watch the full correspondence between both parties for yourself. And I'm then going to break down sound by sound in English pronunciation what happened here to cause this miscommunication, so that if you're a non-native English-speaking pilot or a non-native English-speaking air traffic controller, you can make sure that this incident doesn't happen again.
I don't understand what is the issue?
We don't have pilots. They are all inoperative pilots, so the passengers need to land so they can relieve themselves.
Portugal Flight Hotel, I'm not sure to understand. You said you have no pilot on board?
Our operation is normal, sir. We would like to proceed with the arrival normally at Portugal 484 Hotel.
So you said before you had no pilot.
Okay, so this is just a very short summary. Like I said, you can watch the full transcription and correspondence of what happened in the link below. Let's break this down. There are essentially 4 English sounds here that, had they been pronounced clearly and confidently and received clearly and confidently, this situation would have been averted. Before I just break this down, I just want to defend the French air traffic controller and the Portuguese pilots here from the perspective that already as a pilot and an air traffic controller, there's already a lot going on. You're already doing a job where your capacity bucket and your ability to handle information can be filling up. When you're then doing that in another language, it adds another whole level of complexity. The 2 words are toilet and pilot. Both words are 2 syllables, and the stress in both words is on the first syllable, toy and pie. The second syllables of both words is the same, which is an unstressed weak syllable, lut. So toy and pie, to make this simple, we can actually just think of the words toy as in children's toy and pie as in a slice of pie. Okay? So we've got 2 things in both of these words. We've got a consonant sound and we've got a vowel sound. Let's start with the vowel sounds, then we'll go to the consonant sounds, because both here cause the situation to occur. English has long vowel sounds, which many languages don't have. The vowel sounds in the words toy and pie are diphthongs, so they're actually a combination of 2 vowel sounds in each vowel, and they last. The British accent method teaches long vowel sounds with a technique called the 2-second rule, because if your native language doesn't have long vowel sounds like English has, and you're used to pronouncing short vowel sounds like I, a, o, sit, set, sat, hot, for example, then what you're naturally going to do is shorten long vowel sounds towards the natural length of vowel sounds in your native language, which is why many non-native English speakers will typically struggle to tell the difference between sounds like E and I, as in the words sheep and ship. So in the pronunciation of the words toy and pie, in both of these words, we want to start by pronouncing those vowel sounds for longer. So oi and I. As a non-native English speaker, I'd recommend pronouncing both of these sounds with the 2-second rule. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. And if you want a step-by-step tutorial breaking down the 2-second rule and the other elements of this, then I'm going to link a tutorial up here for you to do that. So the oi vowel sound is in toy and the I vowel sound as in pie, pilot. Because the diphthongs are a transition between 2 vowel sounds in each vowel sound, we want to over-exaggerate these transitions as non-native speakers, because again, if you're not used to having these long vowel sounds where you transition between vowel sounds, it's really important to over-exaggerate that to begin with so that you can get the feel of what it sounds like to transition between 2 vowel sounds over a longer period of time. And by over-exaggerating it in your practice, when you're then in high pressure situations like on radio, talking to air traffic control or talking to pilots, and you don't have time to think about how you're pronouncing things, if you've naturally developed the habits to pronounce these vowel sounds longer, And with that over-exaggeration, then all it's going to do is make your pronunciation more clear. So in the word toy, as in toilet, we want to start with our lips in a rounded position, almost like in the word hot, and we transition to the E vowel sound, like this. Oi, oi, oi. Start with your lips in the rounded position, oi. And then essentially you can just do a big smile as you make this diphthong. The same applies to the I diphthong, okay? Both of these diphthongs are what I call smiling diphthongs or smiling vowel sounds, because essentially you start in a lower position in the mouth and you transition to a smiling position in the mouth. And by thinking of these vowel sounds, oi, I, and there's one more, a diphthong in English, that's what I call a smiling diphthong. By thinking of them as smiling, that gives you an instant mental frame to always pronounce these vowel sounds clearly. Oi, as in toy, toilet, and then I, as in pie, as in pilot. This diphthong is the same sound as in me saying I, or hi. If you're ever talking about yourself, which I'm sure you do a lot of the time, I simply is that diphthong. So here we start with our lips in a neutral, unrounded position. And essentially we want to make the vowel sound. We're almost just going to grunt. I'm not doing anything fancy with my mouth. I'm just going And again, we're going to transition to a big smile and the E sound. I. The key for success here is differentiating between the starting position of both vowel sounds. So for toy, as in toilet, our lips are rounded, oi. I, as in pilot, I. Oi. I. So those are the vowel sounds. Now let's go to the consonants, because my belief is that the consonants here also led to this misunderstanding. And there's one clip which I'll play for you now where the pronunciation of T, toilet, sounded more similar to me to the pronunciation of P, pilot, which is why I believe that air traffic control, one reason why they assumed that the captain or the pilot that was having this communication was saying pilot and not toilet. So let's just have a listen.
We don't have pilots, they are all inoperative pilots.
In English pronunciation, we have the P and T sounds, P and T. Now, in both French and Portuguese, they have these sounds, but in English, these sounds are pronounced with a thing called aspiration, which is essentially a big puff of air, which they are not pronounced with in Portuguese and many other languages around the world. So native speakers of many languages from all around the world often find they struggle to pronounce these sounds like a native in English because they are pronounced with a thing called aspiration, which I'm going to break down for you, that their native language doesn't have, okay? And if you want to speak like a native or speak clearly and confidently in English, adding aspiration to your pronunciation of these two sounds and a third sound, k, in English, as in K or cry, adding that aspiration to these sounds makes a massive difference. Here's how to pronounce the T sound and the P sound like a native English speaker. We're going to start by taking the words toy and pie and dropping that consonant sound off them altogether. So we're back to just the diphthong. Oi, I, oi, I. Now what we're going to do is add an H sound to the beginning of both vowels. So we're going to say hoy, hi, hoy, hi. Now you might think, well, why on earth are you adding an H sound? It's all going to become clear. What we're then going to do is whisper the P and the T sounds before that H sound. So for pie, as in pilot, we're going to say hi, And then we're going to whisper the P sound before that. Pie. 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 A bit quicker. Pie. 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 Very important. We're not pausing the airflow in between whispering that P sound and the H sound. It's a continuous flow, and that's what gives us the native English P sound. Pie, 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 pilot. Okay, let's do the same for toy. So we're going to add an H sound to it. Hoy, hoy, hoy. Now we're going to whisper the T sound slowly and not pause airflow. Toy, 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 toilet. That is how you pronounce the P and the T sounds like a native in English. So if we just summarise this, we have a different pronunciation to both the T and the P sounds to what was said or what was heard. Both vowel sounds could have been held for longer to make the vowel sound clear. The starting position of both vowel sounds could have been slightly more exaggerated, or slightly less neutral, because to me here, as a pronunciation specialist, it sounded like the starting position of both vowel sounds was quite similar. Okay, and it's by changing those two things that you go from pilot and toilet to pilot and toilet. I'm going to give you two more tips here, which I actually read in the comments, and I believe as aviation specialists we can take from this as well. But if you want step-by-step tutorials on what I've just gone through, even in more detail here, then up here linked I've got a video on how to pronounce the British P, T and K sounds like a native English speaker, and also how to pronounce long English vowel sounds clearly like native English speakers as well. The two bonus tips which I read in the comments when I was doing some research on this, and I also firmly believe could have been beneficial here with the benefit of hindsight, and that's important to add, with the benefit of hindsight, because it's always easy to say, oh, they could have done this when we weren't the ones in that situation in the moment. We don't know how full the capacity bucket was and how much we were dealing with at the time. Two other tips could have been, one, instead of referring to the word toilet, it could have been beneficial to refer to the toilet as lavatory or lav, because in aviation the toilets on board the aircraft are often referred to as lavatories or lav for short. When a toilet needs to be referred to on an aircraft, it'll often be lav and then something that identifies that particular lavatory on the aircraft. The second tip that could have been beneficial here, when it became clear that there was a miscommunication, is rather than just using the word toilet or pilot, to actually use the NATO alphabet to spell the word that was being referred to. So in the case of saying toilet, it would have been Tango, Oscar, Indigo, Lima, Echo, Tango, to spell toilet, instead of just using the word. Because as pilots and air traffic controllers, the NATO alphabet is used all the time, specifically for clarity. So those are two bonus tips there, but ultimately what we want as pilots, and the reason why there is ICAO English examinations for pilots and air traffic controllers, is to ensure communication is at a certain level to avoid misunderstandings. But despite that being the case, due to the challenges and complexities of English pronunciation, miscommunications still can occur, and that's why the British accent method specialises in helping non-native English speaking pilots and air traffic controllers to pass the ICAO English examinations and speak clearly and confidently and assertively on the radio, but also as a pilot in the flight deck when you're giving announcements to passengers on board the aircraft, and also as a pilot when you're going for interviews for your dream airline. So if you are a non-native English speaking air traffic controller or a non-native English speaking pilot, and you want to maximise your confidence in English and pronounce English clearly and confidently and have certainty in your pronunciation so that you can feel confident that you're not going to have one of these miscommunications and situations occur, then head to the British Accent Method, link in the description, take the assessment, take the next step, and guarantee your confidence and your career success as a non-native English speaking pilot or air traffic controller. And whether you're in training or you're actually working in one of these professions, if you want to maximise your energy and your focus throughout the day and your ability to carry out deep work without distraction, then head to my other channel up here where I explain how you can achieve just that by becoming a dopamine warrior. I'll see you there in just a sec.